What's up, guys? The Fallout series has dropped, and it's pretty good. If you're a fan of the games, then you'll love this closely adapted series, which stars Ella Purnell as Lucy, Walton Goggins as Cooper, and Aaron Moten as Maximus. Without further ado, let's get into it. Episode 1 starts off with a young boy named Roy having a birthday party. A celebrity named Cooper is there entertaining the kids with his horse and taking photos, with the help of his daughter Janie. We then hear a newscaster mention that nuclear war seems to be imminent. Clearly, everyone fears a nuke will drop at any point. Suddenly, as Cooper goes to get Janie a piece of birthday cake, she notices a mushroom cloud in the distance, but no one else at the party even acknowledges it. As the blast reaches the house, chaos ensues as everyone panics. Roy's parents fight the other party guests as they try to get into their bomb shelter. As Cooper and Janie ride away on a horse, more bombs drop into the city. 219 years later, we meet Lucy, a woman living in Vault 33 underground with a bunch of other people. They've been living down there for generations and have a whole society. Lucy is asking a council to be approved for marriage, to which they agree. After that, we jump to Lucy's wedding, and she makes a comment about being happy she doesn't have to do cousin stuff anymore. I don't remember incest being part of the games. But anyway, it's a blind marriage, and she doesn't even know who the husband is going to be. As they go to meet with the husband, they're stopped by the gatekeeper, who's having trouble opening the hatch to the other vault. But really, the gatekeeper is Lucy's cousin, Chet, and just doesn't want her to go because he's in love with her. Wow, they're really upping the ante on this incest stuff, huh? Eventually, Lucy meets her husband, Monty, who's from another vault, and they get married. Later on, as they're banging, Lucy's brother Norm sneaks over to Vault 32, where Monty is from, and starts snooping around. Everything there looks dead, like no one has been there for a long time, and he even finds a corpse of a vault dweller. As that's going on, back at Lucy's place, she finds out that Monty is actually a raider from the surface. So they fight, and Lucy manages to subdue him. Then she heads out into the hallway to find a war going on between the Vault Dwellers and some other raiders. As it turns out, it appears that raiders killed everyone inside Vault 32. Anyway, Lucy fights her way through them all to save Norm. But just then, Monty shows back up and is killed for good by Lucy's father, the Overseer, who's in charge of Vault 33. They go to escape and run into Moldaver, the leader of the raiders, who kidnaps the Overseer and takes him to the surface. After that, we meet Maximus, a soldier in the Brotherhood of Steel, a technology-based military unit. He gets bullied constantly by another soldier named Thaddeus and his cronies. Then, an airship arrives outside, dropping off a bunch of knights wearing special power armor. Meanwhile, back in Vault 33, the Vault Dwellers are cleaning up the mess from the raiders' attack. Lucy asks the council to open the vault, so a search party can go out to look for the Overseer. But when they refuse, Lucy just sneaks out on her own. After Maximus's friend Dane gets hurt, the elder of the unit questions him to see if he was involved. Maximus declines and pleads his loyalty to the Brotherhood, earning him the promotion of Squire. Then he gets tasked with tracking down a member of the Enclave, who is said to have a powerful item, along with a knight named Titus. Meanwhile, 3 bounty hunters are sent to recruit a ghoul to help them with a bounty, which happens to be on the same Enclave member. The Enclave is some sort of lab. Anyway, the ghoul they find turns out to be Cooper. He ends up killing the bounty hunters and sets off after the Enclave member by himself. Episode 2 begins with the Enclave member, who's a scientist named Wilzig, experimenting on dogs. He gets a special item that's glowing blue and implants it into himself. And I guess this is the powerful item mentioned in the first episode. Another scientist catches on to what he's doing, but one of Wilzig's dogs kills them. Meanwhile, Lucy's exploring the ruins of Los Angeles. She stumbles across a family of skeletons in one of the run-down houses. Later that night, she falls asleep and wakes up to Wilzig's dog killing a giant roach. Wilzig appears next to Lucy and tells her that she needs to go back into the vault, because it's too dangerous on the surface. And then, he disappears into the night. Somewhere nearby, Maximus and his companion, Knight Titus, are tracking Wilzig. Wilzig stops to rest for a minute by a cave, and his dog comes running out of it with a human hand in his mouth. A bit later on, Maximus and Titus arrive at the cave, but there's no one around. All of a sudden, Titus gets attacked by a giant bear. He turns into a coward and runs away, leaving Maximus to fight the bear on his own. Afterward, Titus complains about having to go on the mission and blames Maximus for everything. So instead of helping him, Maximus lets Titus die from his injuries, and he takes the power armor for himself. As that's going on, Lucy's heading for the town of Philly. Once she gets there, she asks around if anybody has seen the Overseer, but everyone seems to be in their own world and basically ignores her. Lucy asks the store owner about Moldaver, and the store owner says that she's looking for trouble, and basically says to fuck off. Just then, Lucy runs back into Wilzig, who knows an awful lot about Vault 33 for whatever reason. All of a sudden, Cooper shows up and confronts Wilzig for the bounty. The shop owner comes out and tries to reason with Cooper, saying that she was paid to protect him. But Cooper answers this by shooting Wilzig's foot off. As a shootout occurs between Cooper and the locals, Lucy tells Cooper to stand down. Right before Cooper shoots her, Maximus shows up to stop him. Maximus and Cooper engage in a giant fight, allowing Lucy to take Wilzig to safety. The shop owner gives Wilzig a new foot and asks Lucy to take him to her employer, who just so happens to be Moldaver. The store owner says delivering Wilzig will give her a chance to save her dad. So, as they trek through the wasteland, Wilzig tells Lucy to bring his severed head to Moldaver, and then he dies from blood loss. In episode 3, we go back to before the bombs drop to see Cooper in Hollywood filming a western. He's greeted by his wife Barb and his daughter Janie, who gift him with a new suit that just so happens to be a prototype Vault Dweller suit. Barb mentions that it was made with his colors, blue and gold. Then, in present day, Cooper and Wilzig's dog are together wandering the wasteland when he comes across the headless body of Wilzig. Meanwhile, as Lucy tries to figure out what's so special about Wilzig's head, Maximus heads into town and finds spare parts for his damaged power armor that got messed up during the fight with Cooper. The Brotherhood tries to contact him, and Maximus poses as Titus, saying that his squire died in battle. When he returns, he gets attacked by a group of raiders, but Maximus defeats them all and takes the suit back. He even squishes one guy's head. It's pretty brutal. He goes on his way, but is interrupted when the Brotherhood sends a new squire to tag along with him, Thaddeus. Lucy almost makes it to her destination when she's attacked by a mutant fish called a Gulper, who steals Wilzig's head. Just then, Cooper appears and demands she gives him the head back. Back in the vault, Norm gets blamed for Lucy leaving, and he's reassigned to deliver meals to captured raiders. As Maximus and his new squire Thaddeus finally discover Wilzig's body, Cooper is busy using Lucy as bait to get the head back. The plan backfires and Cooper forces Lucy to tag along with him as a prisoner. Back in the vault, the council makes the decision to integrate the raiders into their society, much to the dismay of the other vault dwellers. Norm suggests they kill the raiders, and everybody freaks out, except for a woman named Stephanie, who says it's what the Overseer would have done. Maximus and Thaddeus find the Gulper that took Wilzig's head and fight it. The Gulper ultimately pukes up Wilzig's head, and then it dies. Then, as Cooper and Lucy are traveling the wasteland, she asks him if radiation on the surface made him that way, and he says, something like that. We then get a flashback to the beginning of the episode where Cooper puts on the vault-tec suit, and it's revealed that he's been chosen as the face of vault-tec to advertise their new radiation-proof suits. In episode 4, Lucy and Cooper run into Cooper's friend Roger, another ghoul. He's turning feral due to the lack of a chemical that ghouls have to inhale to stay human. Cooper's been taking this regularly. Anyway, as Roger turns, Cooper mercy kills him and then eats his body. As they travel, Cooper starts to teach her the ways of the wasteland, proving that what she learned in the vault won't assure her survival on the surface. But when she gets a chance, she runs. However, Cooper just catches up with her again. They have a brief altercation and she bites his finger off, so he cuts hers off in exchange. Back in the vault, Chet is visited by Stephanie, who lost her husband during the raid. She dresses Chet up like her husband and plans to sleep with him. Oh, and by the way, she's 9 months pregnant. So, almost immediately, her water breaks and she has the baby right there. That's pretty crazy. Cooper takes Lucy to a supermarket where he trades her for a 2-month supply of the chemical to keep him human. Lucy heads inside to get her finger replaced, but is knocked out by an android called Snip Snip that wants to harvest her organs. Later on, one of the raiders tells Norm that they didn't have anything to do with Vault 32, that whatever the Vault Dwellers there were doing was anything but innocent. So, Norm goes to look into it, and all the records for Vault 32 are inaccessible. He and Chet decide to go check things out for themselves. When they get there, everything is in ruin and there are bodies everywhere. When Norm checks a pip-boy on one of the bodies, it says that they've all been dead for at least 2 years. Back in the supermarket, Lucy uses a defibrillator to short-circuit Snip Snip. Then she threatens to inject the captors with drain cleaner unless they free all the captive ghouls. So, they do, but a handful of them are feral and attack them. Meanwhile, Norm discovers that the dwellers in Vault 32 knew something sinister about the higher-ups at Vault-tec, and he finds out that the raiders got in from the outside, using his deceased mother's pip-boy. Outside the supermarket, Lucy gains the upper hand on Cooper and leaves him with a bunch of vials so that he doesn't turn, and then she sets off on her own. Episode 5 starts off with Maximus and Thaddeus camping out and bonding, but Thaddeus thinks that he's been with Titus the whole time. Feeling bad about lying, Maximus comes clean with them and reveals himself. But it goes pretty poorly and the two get into a fight, ending with Thaddeus shutting down the power armor with a special key and stealing the power core. The next day, Maximus gets swarmed by giant roaches and is saved by Lucy. Meanwhile, Norm and Chet are still walking around Vault 32, trying to figure out who could have used Norm's mother's pip-boy to let the raiders in. They find the entrance to Vault 31, with a lot of dead vault dwellers surrounding it, and the words, "We know what's in there," written on the wall in blood. As that's going on, realizing they're after the same thing, Lucy and Maximus agree to work together to get Wilzig's head back. Back in the vault, one of the council members named Betty is elected the new overseer, and Norm learns that she, among many others in Vault 33, came over from Vault 31. Back on the surface, as they traverse a bridge, Maximus and Lucy come into contact with some people passing by. At first, they seem pretty innocent, but then they try to kill them, so Maximus shoots them both and tells Lucy that they were fiends, who were basically cannibals. They come across a billboard for a town called Shady Sands, where a lot of people lived after the bombs dropped. Lucy freaks out because she says the whole purpose of being in the vault was to one day come back to the surface and start over again. Realizing that Maximus got shot during the altercation on the bridge, Lucy heads into a Vault-tec hospital to find first aid. When Maximus goes in to follow her, he accidentally falls through a trap door. Back in the vault, the first order of the new overseer, Betty, is to have half the vault dwellers from 33 move over to Vault 32 to fix it up and start a new life there. As Norm enters and walks around 32, he sees that someone cleaned up all the dead bodies and repainted the rooms to look brand new. Just then, Betty walks in, and he asks her what happened to his mother's pip-boy after she died, and Betty tells him that she was buried with it. Meanwhile, Lucy and Maximus wake up inside of a vault. In episode 6, we start with Cooper filming a commercial for Vault-tec down inside Vault 4, one of the original vaults. He talks with a husband and wife couple named Hawthorne, who are Vault-tec scientists volunteering to live in the vault for 5 years to prove its purpose. Oddly enough, though, Hawthorne is the name of the Vault-tec hospital Lucy and Maximus went into. Anyway, later on, there's an after-party at Cooper's house. He's talking with his director, who tells him that the technology is the future. Also that he sold his voice rights to the people that make robots like Snip Snip. We then go to present day where Cooper's woken up in the supermarket by a sheriff and some deputies. Meanwhile, Maximus is getting patched up by a doctor in Vault 4. Afterward, there's an awkward exchange between him and Lucy, and she asks him if he wants to have sex. It's just a weird interaction because then he goes, "You mean use my cock?" Like, who talks like that? Anyway, later on, as they're eating, Vault 4's overseer comes to greet them, and he's a Cyclops. He tells them that they can do whatever they want there. The only rule is to stay off of level 12. After seeing that guy, they look around and see that everyone there is pretty much a mutant, with one guy even having a nose on his forehead. We go back in time to see Cooper and Barb in a hot tub as they discuss moving to the countryside. Just then, Barb pulls out a pip-boy, much to Cooper's dismay. Barb says that they're going to be used in all the vaults. He shares his growing mistrust with Vault-tec, and she says that her employment with them guarantees their spot in a vault. He says that they're rich enough just to buy a room in one, but she tells him, no, I mean one of the good vaults. Which makes me think not all of them are as safe as they're letting on. Later on, Cooper's at a bar with his friend Charlie, who basically says that Vault-tec can't sell vaults if there's peace between the US and Russia, so they have to make sure it doesn't work out. That's pretty shady. This makes me think that Vault-tec might be behind the nukes, but we'll have to see. Then, Charlie leaves a card for him advertising a place called Hollywood Forever, where a group of people meet up who are against Vault-tec. As time goes on, Cooper gets more and more sketched out by Vault-tec and their intentions. He even questions his wife, who seems to be hiding something. In present day, Lucy's talking to the Vault 4 overseer, and he's really weird. She asks him about level 12 again, and he tells her to get out. As that's going on, Maximus finds his power armor, which a couple of the Vault Dwellers recovered for him. It still doesn't have a power core though, because Thaddeus stole it. So he attempts to steal the one powering Vault 4. But just then, he's interrupted by one of the Vault Dwellers, Birdie. She offers him a Pip-boy and his own room in the vault, and he starts to be amazed by the vault life. As that's going on, the sheriff takes Cooper to a guy named Sorrel, an old friend of his who runs the local government. Sorrel blames Cooper for the guys in the supermarket getting killed, and is pissed because they worked for him. Just then, Cooper kills the sheriff and the others and sees a picture of Moldover on his wall. Sorrel asks if he knows her, and then we jump to a flashback of Cooper attending a meeting at Hollywood Forever. Back in Vault 4, Lucy attends some kind of ritual that the Vault Dwellers are having. They all start doing this weird movement and then all get naked. Birdie walks in, chanting the blood must spill to bring back Shady Sands, and they all start drinking blood. So yeah, Vault 4 is pretty much a cult, I guess. As it turns out, they were all worshipping Moldover. Back to the meeting at Hollywood Forever, Charlie introduces Cooper to the person in charge, who, of course, is Moldover. Lucy runs to tell Maximus about it, but he's too immersed in the lifestyle and doesn't want to leave. So she decides to go check out level 12 on her own, and finds out that they've been doing crazy experiments there. She finds a video of a woman pretty much giving birth to what looks like piranha, that immediately eat her. Then, Lucy gets captured by a group of Vault Dwellers. In episode 7, Cooper confronts the family of a guy working with Moldover, and asks for her location. They give it to him, but he kills the youngest son anyway, then leaves. After telling him that she knows of his wife and that she works for vault-tec, Moldover takes a walk with Cooper and tells him that she was on the verge of a breakthrough with cold fusion energy when vault-tec came in and bought out her company. So Moldover was also a scientist. She tells him that vault-tec is up to no good and gives him a listening device to spy on his wife. Back in present day, Lucy's being held captive by Birdie and the Overseer. They show her a tape of the Hawthorns during their 5-year stay in the vault, which goes horribly wrong when one of their experiments, a gulper, escapes and kills them. The Overseer then asks Lucy what the experiment was in Vault 33, and she looks confused. She says, "There's no experiments there." They take her to a room where she thinks she's being executed, but then they just kick her out of the vault and give her 2 weeks worth of supplies. So I guess to them, being on the surface is a punishment. As that's happening, Maximus gives up the vault lifestyle and steals the vault's power core to put in his suit. He goes to save Lucy, unaware that they just let her go, and he comes in and kicks everyone's ass. As the two of them leave, Lucy feels bad about him stealing the vault's power core and makes him return it. Then, Maximus comes clean to her about his real name and what happened to the real Titus, that he pretty much let him die and stole his suit. But Lucy forgives him and wants him to come live in the vault with her after they find the head. Meanwhile, Thaddeus is in pretty bad shape after fighting Maximus and runs into a guy claiming to be a doctor. Thaddeus trades him the suit's power core in exchange for medicine. So the doctor gives him a liquid to ingest that actually heals his foot instantly. Back in the vault, Norm discovers that all the raiders died from rat poison in their food. Betty then reassigns half the Vault Dwellers over to Vault 32. Norm goes to talk with Chet, who's excited to start fresh with Stephanie and the baby in a new place, despite what they found over there. We then see Cooper debating on using the listening device. He throws it in the trash, and then suddenly has a change of heart and recovers it. Thaddeus goes to a radio station to call the Brotherhood. All of a sudden, Lucy and Maximus walk up, triggering a nearby booby trap that shoots an arrow into Thaddeus' neck. When he pulls it out though, the wound heals immediately. As it turns out, the liquid the doctor gave him is the same stuff Cooper's taking to keep him from not turning into a ghoul, which means that Thaddeus is now becoming a ghoul. The Brotherhood shows up and Maximus gives Lucy Wilzig's head and tells her to go while he distracts them. Back in the vault, just as the Vault Dwellers are going over to Vault 32, Betty names Stephanie as the Overseer for Vault 32. Norm gives Chet a look of concern because they know Stephanie originally came from Vault 31, just like Betty and Lucy's dad did. So something's not adding up. Only people from Vault 31 are chosen as Overseers. Feeling something's going on, Norm sneaks into Betty's office and hacks into her computer to speak with the Overseer of Vault 31. Speaking as Betty, Norm tells them the mission isn't going as planned, and they say to come over to Vault 31 immediately. So Norm heads over. In the finale, Maximus gets picked up by the Brotherhood and goes back to the town of Philly with a different severed head. He gives the head to the Elder, who calls bullshit on it immediately. And when he almost gets killed, Maximus tells them he can lead them to the real head. The elder pulls him aside and says they can find the head together and use it to start a new brotherhood to rule the Wasteland. As that's going on, Lucy shows up to the Griffith Observatory, which is the base of Moldover. Back in the past, Cooper drops Barb off at vault-tec and decides to use the device to listen in on her. In present day, Lucy brings Wilzig's head back to Moldover. Her and her group are sitting at a table eating alongside a feral ghoul that's been tied up. Moldover extracts the glowing blue item from the head and begins to tell her how she knows the Overseer. Norm is investigating Vault 31 and runs into Vault 31's Overseer, a talking brain on a Roomba, which is actually Bud, one of Barb's associates from vault-tec. Cooper is listening in on Barb's meeting with the other executives. They say they plan on using the vaults to outlive the rest of the world, so that they can go to the surface and rebuild as they wish. Meanwhile, Norm discovers a bunch of vault-tec executives cryogenically frozen, and Bud explains that they're all people he trained to take over vault-tec. Also, that Betty and Norm's father were both trained by Bud. Back in the meeting, Barb says that there are hundreds of vaults in America. Each one can be used as an experiment to see what living conditions work best to revive the world after the bombs. Bud tells Norm that Vault 32 and 33 were both experiments to breed the perfect management for vault-tec. At the meeting, the executives play out different scenarios for the vaults, like forcing people to breathe in psychotropic drugs, and one where they turn illegal immigrants into mutants. One of the executives says it sounds promising, but how can we guarantee results? To which Barb answers, "We dropped the bombs ourselves." So there you go, vault-tec are the ones who dropped the bombs. Just then, Betty, who at the time was just a receptionist for vault-tec, brings in someone to meet Cooper, Hank, Lucy and Norm's father. Back in present day, Moldover tells Lucy that her mother believed that life had returned to the surface, but Hank, the Overseer, forbid her from checking. So, much like Lucy, her mother ran away with the kids to the surface and settled in a town called Shady Sands. But Hank chased after them and destroyed Shady Sands, killing the mom in the process. As it turns out, Hank is the one who destroyed the city. Moldover also reveals why everyone is after Wilzig's head. The glowing blue item is actually cold fusion, which is the thing that she was working on all those years ago, that has the capability of producing clean, limitless energy. Just then, Lucy looks over at the ghoul sitting at the table and realizes that it's her mother. Afterward, Lucy makes her dad give Moldover a code to jumpstart the cold fusion machine. Meanwhile, back in the vault, as Norm looks through the executives that have been unfrozen, along with Betty and Hank, Stephanie's name is on the list, proving that she too was an executive of vault-tec. The Brotherhood arrives at the observatory, and a fight breaks out between them and Moldover's soldiers. After mowing through Moldover's men, the Brotherhood gets stopped by Cooper, who engages them in another firefight. As that's going on, Maximus shows up to rescue Lucy, and he frees Hank. Lucy explains that Hank was the one who blew up Shady Sands, but it's too late. Hank puts on the power armor and knocks out Maximus. Just as Lucy points a gun to Hank and hesitates, Cooper walks in and shoots him. Cooper then asks Hank where Barb and Janie are, but Hank just flies away in the suit. Cooper offers Lucy to join him chasing after Hank. So, she mercy kills her mother and heads off with him into the Wasteland. As Maximus wakes up, Moldover activates the cold fusion machine and then dies from an injury she got during the fight. All of a sudden, the entire city gets powered by cold fusion and lights up. After that, the Brotherhood walk in and assume Maximus killed Moldover, promoting him to a knight. The final shot is of Hank in the power armor approaching a nearby town. The end. Wow, that was wild. So vault-tec was responsible for the bombs dropping, only to ensure the sales of their vaults. What a bunch of assholes. And how Lucy's father and some of the others in Vault 33 were corporate members of vault-tec prior to the bombs. But whatever happened to Cooper's wife and daughter? I feel like at some point we'll get a season 2 that will answer all these questions. My only other question is how Moldover survived 200 years. She wasn't frozen in the vaults, so how does that make any sense? Anyway guys, I really recommend this one. It's just like the games and they did really good. So go check it out, and I'll see you later.